Chapter 1. After finishing my third endoscopy of the day, as usual, I lay down in the hospital's VIP suite. It wasn't because I was sick, I just wanted to prove that when you have money, you can really do whatever you want. I ordered my assistant, "Go tell the hospital that all the expenses today are on me." However, just as I was enjoying a bit of relaxation with my eyes closed, I heard the voice of my butler speaking in a low, almost conspiratorial tone. "Young Master Wang, according to my sources, Willow went to see her childhood friend today. Willow was the fiancée my parents had arranged for me. I had only met her once, at the family gathering where she was introduced to me, and we hadn't had any contact since then. Even so, she was still nominally my fiancée, George's fiancée. From the moment she took on that title, the Wang family assigned her a full security team. Perhaps she thought it was just a formality, but our bodyguards weren't there just for show," the butler continued. "Today, she insisted on going out without allowing the bodyguards to follow her." He handed me a tablet where a list of call logs was flashing. During a routine security check, the team detected that she has been in frequent contact with an unknown number. By protocol, the information was sent directly to me. Of course, Willow had no idea that her contact list was completely visible to me. I could look at it anytime I wanted, though, to be honest, I usually couldn't be bothered to care. I skimmed through the calls made at 3 in the morning, drumming my fingers impatiently on the armrest. I asked, "That childhood friend, is it a man or a woman?" The butler sighed. "A man." I felt fury boiling inside me. That woman, my fiancée, dared to secretly meet with another man before our marriage? I asked, "Do my parents know?" "Not yet, sir." "Perfect." I straightened up. "I'll call her right now. I want to hear what excuse she can give me." I dialed Willow's number on my personal phone. The call barely rang twice before a male voice answered. "Hello, who's speaking?" The tone of the man was strangely unpleasant. His cadence made my skin crawl. "Where's Willow? Put her on the phone." I went straight to the point. "Willow? Oh, she can't right now. She's in the shower," he replied, dragging the words with an almost mocking arrogance. "And who are you? Why do you have her phone?" "Me. I'm her boyfriend." "Got a problem with that?" It was the first time I had ever heard such nonsense. Her boyfriend. "And who the hell are you?" the guy asked provocatively. I replied coldly, "I want to speak to her in person." "I told you she's in the shower," he shot back shamelessly. "If you've got something to say, wait until she's free." I frowned, barely keeping my anger in check. "Don't test my patience. Tell her to come out right now, or I'll..." Before I could finish, the man hung up. The monotonous beeping on the phone echoed in my ears like a direct slap to my authority. "Well done. You've really got guts. Daring to hang up on me." George noted and remembered. I yawned and glanced at the butler beside me. I asked, "You know what to do, right?" He nodded. "Understood. Young Master Wang. Good. The rest is up to you. I'm a bit sleepy. Unless it's something serious, don't bother me." "Okay." I lay back down on the hospital bed, letting my body sink into it as my consciousness slowly faded away. I didn't know how long I'd been asleep before the sharp ring of my phone tore through the silence. Very few people had my private number, so whoever managed to reach me had to be someone I knew. I answered the call, only to have my eardrums nearly shattered by Willow's scream. "George, are you insane? I just went out with my male best friend for a bit. Is that such a big deal?" I replied calmly. "Watch your tone. You're my fiancée. Just the fact that you went out and fooled around with another man is enough for me not to let it slide. And now you're yelling at me. Are you tired of living?" But Willow ignored me completely, as if she hadn't heard a word, and instead shouted hysterically, "What did you say to Makoto? He said you started yelling the moment you picked up the phone. Because of that, he almost decided to cut ties with me. I had to apologize for ages before he'd even calmed down." "Tell me, what did you say to him?" I said. "Who's that coward? Hiding behind a woman? What kind of man does that? If he's got any guts, tell him to come face me directly." I couldn't help but laugh. Swirling the empty glass on the table, Willow yelled, "You insulted him." Her tone rose, filled with anger. "He's just my male best friend. Why are you being so petty?" "Male best friend?" My temper flared instantly. That shameless woman dared to turn the accusation around on me. Word by word, I said coldly. "Let me remind you, with just one word from me, your entire Liu family could end up sleeping on the streets. Where do you get the nerve to talk to me like that?" The line suddenly fell silent. Only her quick, panicked breathing could be heard. I knew she was remembering what my father had casually mentioned at last week's family banquet, the billion-dollar investment that was about to be injected into the Liu family's crumbling business empire, their last lifeline. I said, "I'm giving you until the end of today. Bring that coward to me and make him apologize, or the consequences will be far worse than just sleeping on the streets," Willow whispered, her voice trembling. "But, it's already so late." Her tone weakened, like a bird with its neck squeezed tight. I said, Then you'd better hurry. My patience has limits, and time's running out. With that, I hung up. An hour later, the doorbell of the Wang family estate rang sharply. Through the security monitor, I saw Willow pulling along a pale-faced young man, both of them standing nervously outside the ornate iron gates. The man was wearing a trendy hoodie and had a matching couple's bracelet identical to Willow's on his wrist. I instructed the guards at the gate to bring them in. The man was immediately forced to his knees, the guards gripping his arms tightly. His knees were trembling, clearly. He had never experienced this kind of scene before. Willow stood to the side, barely daring to breathe. I said, "Lift his head." The butler immediately stepped forward, grabbed the man by the hair, and yanked his head upward. Looking at his contorted face, I said coldly, "Honestly, I can't figure out what Willow sees in you. You've got a punchable face, no brains, and not a dime to your name. Isn't that just pathetic?" Willow pressed her lips together, saying nothing. At that moment, the man clearly realized he couldn't just wait for his fate, so he stammered, "Mr. Wang, you've got it all wrong. Willow and I are just friends. You're a man of status, someone like you wouldn't hold a grudge against a nobody like me, right?" I replied. "Did I tell you to speak?" "Hit him." At my order, the butler immediately slapped him hard across the face. Willow shouted, "That's enough. George, you've gone too far. I already told you. He's just my male best friend. What more do you want? Do you expect me to never talk to another man again for the rest of my life?" Seeing him get slapped, Willow screamed and lunged forward, but my bodyguard stopped her before she could take a single step closer. I smirked. "Male best friend? Then why did he call himself your boyfriend?" I pulled out my phone and played the recording I had prepared. The moment that man's voice came through, saying, "I'm her boyfriend," his face turned deathly pale. He stammered, "It's not like that, Willow. I thought it was one of your admirers calling to harass you. I just wanted to help you out." He struggled to free himself from the guards holding him down, but he couldn't move an inch. I spoke in a mocking tone. "Miss Lu, what a pure friendship indeed, going to another man's house to shower, was it?" Willow snorted coldly. "Since you already know, there's no point pretending anymore." Seeing that the lie had been exposed, Willow dropped the act completely and showed her true colors. She said, "So what if it's true? You think having money makes you better than everyone else? You have no idea what real love is." "Yes, I agreed to marry you for your money," I asked. "So you admit you've been fooling around with this coward?" "That's right. With Makoto, I finally felt what real love is. The emotional value he gives me is something you could never provide." I had no idea what emotional value she was talking about, nor how she could say something so ridiculous. All I knew was this: life is a transaction, fair and mutually beneficial. The Wang family paid, and the Lu family was supposed to provide the service. But people like Willow never understand a simple truth: those who pay the bill never owe anyone emotional value. She continued, "I'm warning you, if you don't let Makoto go right now, don't even think about marrying me later." How boring. I couldn't tell if this woman simply hadn't grasped the situation or if there was something wrong with her brain. I couldn't be bothered to explain. I only said, "How noisy." "Hit her." One of the guards beside me immediately slapped Willow across the face. Her cheek swelled up at once and she stopped shouting back. I said, "All right, have her parents come and claim her." The butler quickly notified Willow's parents. Soon after, the two of them were brought in by the guards. "George, what's going on? Can't we talk this out? Come on. Apologize to Willow and let's drop it," Lu's mother complained. Looking at Willow's swollen face, I laughed and said, "Me apologize to her? You must still be dreaming. Looks like poor judgment runs in this family. I suggest you first ask what exactly she did," I said. Mr. and Mrs. Lu hurried Willow aside and whispered to her. I didn't care what private words they exchanged, the Lu family's fate was already sealed. After their discussion they stepped back in front of me. Mr. Lu said, "It's all a misunderstanding. That young man is just an ordinary friend of Willow's." Still, Willow did act a bit out of line. "Don't worry, we'll take her home and discipline her," I said. "No need to discipline. This woman is tainted. I won't marry her. I called you here for this. You have two options." I pointed at the young man and enunciated each word. 1. You dispose of this trash and hand over half of the Lu family's estate to me. 2. You return every single bit that the Wang family has given you. Not a penny missing. And on top of that, pay an additional 50% interest as compensation for my emotional damages. During my engagement with Willow, the Lu family had taken quite a lot of benefits from the Wang family. I said, "Of course, no matter which option you choose, I won't be keeping this woman. You have 5 seconds to decide." 5. I started counting down. Option 1. I choose 1. Mr. Lu blurted out first. He clearly knew which side was heavier on the scale. Selling the entire Lu family still wouldn't be enough to repay what they had gained from me. "Dad, no," Willow screamed. Looks like she was truly blinded by love, actually caring about that loser. 4. Mr. Lu snapped. Can't you be sensible, even now? Willow shouted back. I don't care what you say, I won't abandon Makoto. Father and daughter started arguing loudly. Mrs. Lu, realizing I wasn't joking, kept completely silent, afraid to add fuel to the fire. 3. Mr. Lu gritted his teeth. We'll go with option 1. That's final. Willow cried. I won't. I'll never give up on Makoto. He's still a human being. 2. Mr. Lu roared. If we don't choose option 1, are you going to pay back what we owe the Wang family? Willow turned her head away and snorted coldly. I don't care. I won't let anything happen to Makoto, I said. Time's up. Looks like you haven't reached a decision, Mr. Wang. Mr. Lu seemed desperate to make one last plea, but I wasn't interested in hearing it. I said. Enough. Since your family can't decide, I'll choose for you. The boy, I'll take him. The Lu family fortune, I'll take that too. The money I spent on your family, I'm reclaiming it. And as for the interest, don't think I'll let that slide either. I delivered my verdict on the Lu family without mercy. That's it. Show them out. I didn't bother watching their reactions as the guards dragged them away. For me, crushing the Lu family was as easy as stepping on an insect. I truly didn't know how they ever got the delusion that they could act high and mighty before me, treating me like the victim. Hey, maybe in your next life. Chapter 2. One morning, I received the bankruptcy report of the Lu family. I had said it before, making them end up on the streets only took a single word from me. I didn't know whether Willow was still chasing after her so-called true love, but honestly, I didn't care anymore. The entire ordeal, from beginning to end, had lasted barely a week. I had no time to waste on that "you love me, I don't love you" nonsense. I wasn't some love-struck fool like Willow. I asked. What about that male best friend? How was he dealt with? As I casually tossed the bankruptcy report into the shredder, I looked toward the butler. He said. We had someone break both his legs. He won't be standing again in this lifetime. He stood with his hands behind his back, his tone icy. I shrugged and said. I thought you'd break 3 legs. The butler hesitated, then said with regret. Young Master Wang, shall we bring him back and finish the job? I waved a hand. Forget it. I'm a merciful person. As long as he never shows up in front of me again, I'll let him live. After all, in that state, he was basically useless anyway. With that, I lay lazily back on the hospital bed once more. A few days later, I returned to my parents' estate. They told me they had found a new fiancée for me. I asked. Which family this time? The Lu family was already more than enough for me. Looking at the tastefully decorated living room my mother had arranged, I frowned. I had a bad feeling about this. She said. This one's different. A true scholarly family. Spotless background. Clean reputation, you'll see. Funny. That's exactly what they'd said about Willow. I asked. Where are they? They'll be here any moment, she replied. The Kim family arrived quickly. When I saw the girl named Sophia Kim, I had to admit that her appearance, dressed in a simple white dress, pure and gentle, fit my aesthetic perfectly. But that was all. To me, a marriage alliance partner was nothing more than a chess piece on the board. After my parents found an excuse to leave, the living room was left with just Sophia and me. Sophia. Right, I'm George. I broke the ice first, extending my right hand. I saw Sophia Kim do the same. Her handshake light and polite, purely symbolic. I said. I don't know what attitude you have toward this marriage, Miss Kim. As long as my partner is loyal, I don't care much about family background or social standing. I made my position clear. After all, this was a business alliance. Love wasn't really the point. As long as she didn't get involved with another man, I didn't mind much else. I continued. So, if there's anything you're hiding, or if you're having second thoughts, say it now. There's still time. She replied softly. I'm fine with it. But even as she spoke, I could tell her mind was somewhere else. Whatever, let it be. Once she boarded the Wang family's ship, getting off would come at a heavy price. Not long after, both families decided we should spend some time getting to know each other. Before setting a wedding date, better to settle things quickly than drag them out. Spending time together, in this case, meant 3 scheduled phone calls a week. She said she liked flowers, so I bought her an entire flower shop. She said she liked jade, so I spent a fortune to win an antique jade pendant worth over 100 million. If there's one thing I have in abundance, it's money. As for meeting in person, we'd only met 3 times that month, never for more than half an hour. Most of the time, she seemed absent-minded, stirring her coffee with a spoon for 10 minutes straight. Clearly, she didn't take this engagement seriously either, but I didn't care. My current task was simple, continue the family line. Everything else, I could handle on my own. Before I knew it, the wedding day had arrived. Both the Wang and Kim families had sent invitations to every influential figure in the region. By all accounts, everything should have gone exactly as planned. Except, of course, when everything seems certain, that's when something goes wrong. At first, Everything proceeded perfectly. The host stood in the center of the hall, reciting the ceremonial script, and everything moved forward in its prearranged order. If only it had stayed that way. The host asked, "Mr. George Wang, do you take Miss Sophia Kim to be your wife?" "I do." "Miss Sophia Kim, do you take Mr. George Wang to be your husband?" Sophia bit her lip. I. And the next second, she shouted, "I object." Halfway through the wedding vows, with the officiant reciting the lines, the hall doors were suddenly flung open. A man in a black suit stormed in. The usually absent-minded Sophia, upon seeing him, suddenly lit up with a look I had never seen before. "Martin, you finally came to take me away." Martin, that name was new to me. I'd never heard it come from her mouth before. Sophia spun around and tried to lift her skirt to jump down from the stage, but I yanked her back with one hand. Her disgrace was laid bare for all the guests to see. I looked down into the audience. My parents were staring at Sophia's parents with the same shock. Clearly Sophia's family hadn't expected this either. I asked, "What do you mean? You're going to run off with this guy?" Sophia stood and looked at me. "Guilty," lowering her head. I said, "So you admit it?" She neither denied the earlier shout nor denied my question. The truth was obvious. Damn, are these people all leaking sewage into their heads? My thoughts were a tangled mess, and the hotel's security was disgustingly awful for letting a bride snatcher get in. I thought the Wang family's reputation would be enough to deter any fool from causing trouble. Apparently we should have posted bodyguards at the doors. Never thought a wedding snatch would happen to me. George, for now, stabilize the situation. This woman was no longer acceptable, but I wouldn't make a scene on the spot. That could wait. I grabbed the microphone from the host. "I'm sorry, everyone, due to unforeseen circumstances, the wedding is suspended. This is a failure on the Wang family's part. Please accept our apologies and enjoy the food and drink." I handed the microphone back to the host and strode toward the backstage without looking back, not caring what unfolded on stage. Ridiculous, someone actually dared to snatch a bride at my wedding. Sophia, Martin, fine. You've successfully provoked me. I'll make sure you learn what it costs to offend the Wang family. This time, I won't give anyone another chance. Whether it's love or a so-called arranged marriage, everything will be played by my rules. Chapter 3. Ever since that wedding, I began my systematic revenge against the Kim family, a so-called family of scholars. You people care the most about your reputation, don't you? Then I'll make sure it's ruined. And that Sophia, didn't she claim her family background was spotless? Fine. Then let's expose how she accepted my betrothal money only to break off the engagement afterward. Let everyone see what kind of person she really is. And Martin, just a third-rate painter, actually had the guts to try and steal my fiancée. I don't know what he was thinking, but without any backing, he dared to provoke me. He's doomed. None of these people will escape. I'll make them understand what it truly means to be completely disgraced. Soon enough, Kim's father, who served as the chairman of the Calligraphy and Painting Association, was suspended from his post. Someone had reported him by real name for accepting massive bribes, complete with detailed evidence. Investigators were dispatched from above to look into it. The investigation would take time, but it was enough to tarnish the Kim family's reputation. And since he was the chairman, why not dig deeper while we're at it? Let's see if he's really as clean as he pretends to be, if there's any dirt to uncover. Sure enough, my men found that several years ago he had attended a ribbon-cutting ceremony for a telecom fraud organization. Coincidentally, a famous influencer had recently been scammed by a similar group, and the story was all over the internet. Perfect timing to add fuel to the fire. Let the PR department buy some trending spots. Me, George, I may lack many things, but money isn't one of them. Keeping this scandal trending for a whole month won't be a problem. So, on the hot search list, right next to popular influencer kidnapped and scammed by overseas fraud group, another tag appeared: Calligraphy Association chairman colludes with telecom fraud. Next up, Sophia. I didn't need to lift a finger myself, just leak the footage of her fleeing the wedding venue. Then splice and doctor it a bit, and instantly it becomes a tell-all of a gold-digging woman scamming someone into marriage. Then some alt account on social media leaked a list of gifts I'd given Sophia. The original post was deleted, but with my push it quickly spread across the whole internet. Now Sophia couldn't wash this stain off no matter what she did. As for Martin, there was even more dirt on him. He'd been blacklisted before for producing forged paintings abroad. He couldn't make it there and had returned home. Now he was reduced to selling his paintings on the street. I don't know how Sophia ever took a fancy to him. A few marketing accounts wrote a few crafty smear pieces about Martin, and suddenly he became a pariah everyone wanted to beat. Then some candid photos surfaced of me drinking alone. Looking despondent, they shaped the narrative to cast me as a victim, so the public would sympathize with me as the wrong party. In short, after this 1-2 punch, The Kims were finished. The unemployed Martin was driven out by Kim's father and now begs under a subway entrance. A few days ago he'd apparently had his hand broken by a local gang over stolen business. He'll probably never paint again. One day, while the Kim family and Martin scandals were still fermenting in public opinion, I got a call from Sophia. I said, "Hello, what's up?" She asked, "Was all that stuff online you're doing?" Her voice sounded a little hoarse. It seemed the recent string of blows had left her in a mess. I replied, "I don't know what you're talking about. If there's nothing, I'm hanging up." I wasn't going to admit anything. Who knows if the other side was recording. She said, "Wait, don't hang up. I know it's awkward to ask, but could you lend me some money?" For a moment I wondered what she was planning. I asked, "What do you need the money for? By all rights you shouldn't be short on cash." She still had all the antiques I'd given her, including an ancient jade worth over 100 million, though I guessed most of it had probably been frozen. She said, "My father's under investigation. The family assets are frozen. We can't even afford his lawyer fees." I said, "You come to me for money, so tell me, what exactly are we to each other right now?" I let out a light, bitter laugh and asked Sophia a question. For a moment there was nothing on the other end of the line except Sophia's faint breathing. I said, "Look, we don't seem to have any relationship. Why should I pay? You should go to Martin. He's so capable. He dared to steal my bride at my wedding. Having him cover some legal fees shouldn't be hard, right?" She hesitated. I can't find him anywhere right now." "Of course not. He was begging under some suburban subway entrance." I said, "Fine. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up." As if I'd let her off that easily after she'd humiliated me in front of everyone. I wasn't about to forgive her. I didn't wait for her to say more. I hung up. 3 days later Sophia showed up at my company in person. I didn't stop her. I told the front desk to send her up to see me. She wore the same dress and hairstyle she'd worn when we first met. Even had on makeup, but the heavy dark circles under her eyes were impossible to hide. A bodyguard came up and reported, "We've checked, she's not carrying any suspicious items. The executive floor of this building has 3 metal detectors between the elevator and my office. The security at the door even carry stun guns. After being kidnapped as a child, I take my personal safety seriously." I said, "Speak. What do you want? I don't have all day." To my surprise, Sophia suddenly collapsed to her knees. Her eyes reddened. "Please, give my father a way out. He didn't know anything about those telecom fraud groups. It was a setup." Her voice shook with an uncontrolled tremor. I asked, "A setup?" Seeing her in such a miserable state, a flash of satisfaction rose in me. I paused, then continued, "You mean someone deliberately reported the ribbon-cutting footage and the transfer records? If you're asking me to spare him, you've come to the wrong person. After all, I didn't do it," she begged. "Right now you're the only one who can save my father. If you come forward and clear things up, he can walk away unscathed." "Clear things up?" I snorted. "Sophia, on what grounds are you even bargaining with me? What do you still have to offer me?" I asked. She said, "Whatever you want, I can give you." Suddenly she looked up, as if she had made up her mind. I shrugged. "Then tell me the story between you and Martin. If you entertain me, maybe I'll consider it." I leaned back, trying to find a comfortable position. I was a little curious why Sophia cared so much about that Martin. Then she started telling that tired, third-rate romance novel story. It was the same old thing, Martin drawing on the street, Sophia passing by and being drawn in. They hit it off, a down-and-out poor boy and a wealthy heiress desperate to break free. Later, because the Wang family and the Kim family were arranging a marriage, the Kims stepped in and cut them off. Then came the cliché wedding-stealing scene, in a romance novel that would lead to the lovers reuniting and me, the villain, eventually letting go. Too bad this isn't a romance novel, and I'm not a romance book villain. Such a cliché story, I said. Sophia lowered her head and was silent. I opened a drawer and took out a black USB drive. I said, "Go have a look at this." It was part of the revenge plan. What's on it is absolutely spectacular. Chapter 4. I only approached Sophia for the Kim family's money. I never loved her. She was only useful because she was the Kim family's eldest daughter. I thought George, that spoiled playboy, couldn't possibly stir up any real trouble. Those were the words in the video recording I'd put on the USB drive for Sophia. As for who said them, in the footage, it was Martin, his face beaten and bruised. After he went to beg the Kim family for help and was thrown out, my people captured him. The video had been specially recorded on my orders. If that recording couldn't reach the eyes of those who needed to see it, how lonely it would be. One day, I received a call from Sophia. I was a little surprised. I'd thought she'd never contact me again. After letting her wait for half a minute, I finally answered. "Hello, Miss Kim. Have you watched the video?" she asked. "So it was all you, wasn't it?" Her voice was still hoarse. It seemed she hadn't rested well these days. I said, "So what if it was me? The evidence has already been submitted. The former chairman won't be getting out of prison in this lifetime. As for you," I paused for a moment. Then I said, The entire internet knows you ran away from your wedding and colluded with a fake painter. From now on, you'll live under everyone's judgment and ridicule." The other end of the line was silent for a long time, so long that I thought she had hung up. Just as I was about to end the call, I heard her let out a soft laugh. She said, "George, you won. But one day, you'll realize you're the most pitiful one of all. You think money can buy everything, but you've never truly owned a single genuine heart. Is that so?" I replied with a cold laugh. I said, "What kind of bullshit, true heart, can get you out of the mess you're in? Sooner or later, you'll learn, sincerity solves nothing, but money can." After hanging up, I no longer cared about the Kim family or Sophia. Later, I heard that Martin was dead, and Sophia had been admitted to a psychiatric hospital. That meant the matter had finally come to an end. Whoever dares to treat me like a victim is asking for their own destruction. Chapter 5. I finally understood. My parents had no eye for choosing a fiancée. The two women they had introduced to me in succession had both turned into jokes. So I decided to find one myself, someone smart, absolutely obedient, someone who knew exactly what to do and what not to do. I said, "Go to the universities we collaborate with and select a group of female students who meet my criteria." I swirled the glass in my hand. The ice cubes hit the crystal walls with a clear, crisp sound. I continued, "The standards are simple: good looks, excellent grades, a family burdened with major medical expenses, and no dating experience. Most importantly." I looked up at the butler. "She must be willing. We don't need any trouble from the legal department." That's right. Rather than letting my parents arrange it, I'd simply keep one myself. I didn't believe that out of all the universities, I couldn't find a girl who met my requirements. 3 days later, the butler handed me a folder neatly filled with the photos of 27 girls. I wasn't interested in reading their life stories, so I told him to arrange the interviews directly. Of course, each girl who came to the office would receive a 100,000 yuan travel stipend. The interview process was straightforward and harsh. A psychologist evaluated their stress tolerance, and a private doctor conducted a full physical examination. After that, I would ask a few questions, purely depending on my mood. After going through the entire process, one girl remained. Her name was Anna. According to her file, her mother had died young, and her father was terminally ill, surviving only through chemotherapy. She was a third-year student with outstanding grades, although she received a national scholarship every year and worked part-time jobs. Her father's illness had pushed her fragile family to the brink of collapse. Now, she stood before me, wearing clothes that looked a bit old, but clean and tidy. I asked, "Do you know why I called you here?" She replied, "Yes, to be your woman, to accompany you at social events, to bear your children, and," her gaze swept across the security monitor on my desk, "to never go against your will." I nodded. "Good. Now, the choice is yours. Do you accept this contract, or do you refuse?" She said, "I accept." I placed a pre-printed contract in front of her. I said, "Don't rush. Take your time to read it before deciding." She flipped through it quickly, her eyes pausing on the clauses about no private contact with men, mandatory schedule reporting, and a breach penalty of 30 million. Even so, she still signed her name at the bottom and pressed her fingerprint beside it. I said, "Very good. According to the contract, I'll arrange your father's liver transplant within a month, and of course, you won't pay a cent." "Thank you," Anna said. It seemed her father truly meant a lot to her. I said, "No need to thank me. It's all written in the contract. I'll give you a week. You can arrange your father's transfer to the hospital. Then pack your things and move in here. I'll have a security team accompany you." She said, "Mr. Wang, I don't need that much." I cut her off. "This is part of the contract, or are you going to back out?" Having been kidnapped as a child, I spend hundreds of millions each year on my security team, so assigning Anna a mid-sized bodyguard detail was no problem. "Master Wang, actually we could slow down her father's treatment a bit." That was the butler's remark after Anna left with the security team I provided. I interrupted him before he could finish. "No need. I'm above using petty tricks. I fear nothing. But if anyone used petty tricks against me, they would face my wrath soon." Anna was living in my villa. On the 7th day after she moved in, I watched on screen as she hesitated for 10 minutes at the doorway to the walk-in closet. In that 20-square-meter room, haute couture gowns and jewelry boxes shimmered coldly. Yet she kept clutching an old sweater in her canvas bag, one her mother had knitted for her when she was a child. "Would you like me to help you choose a gown for tonight's charity gala?" the maid asked, startling her into taking a step back. Anna shook her head. "No, thank you." She picked the most understated black mermaid dress, a single outfit that could pay for her father's care for a year. At the charity gala she moved like a program running to spec, the pressure she put on my arm when she linked it, the number of teeth she showed in her smile, the phrasing she used when dealing with political and business elites, all had been calibrated again and again by etiquette coaches. When the host mentioned the future lady of the Wang family, Her fingertips trembled lightly in my palm. That was the first time she'd been publicly defined as my possession. In truth, I didn't have to attend. I was only there to see how well Anna fit the role. If she fulfilled my requirements, I wouldn't mind giving her a title. Miss Yu is both beautiful and talented. I heard your father's operation was successful, the wife of a real estate magnate said, leaning in with a glass of champagne. Anna replied, thanks to Mr. Wang. Her smile was flawless. Meeting someone willing to take responsibility for everything, I consider myself lucky. Whether it was genuine or acted, it was passable. After that, everything went on as usual. I allowed her to finish university before executing our contract. When her father's surgery succeeded and the hospital sent the recovery report, I watched it and felt a predatory curl at the corner of my mouth. This was not only redemption for her father, it was the final shackle that would trap her in our bargain. From now on, Anna could only perform the script I'd written and dance across the chessboard I controlled. Chapter 6. Several years later, my daughter Lillian had reached the age where she ran to kindergarten with ribbons in her hair. She tugged on the leg of my suit pants, the ends of her hair still catching the strands that Anna had left behind while braiding it that morning. Daddy, the swings at kindergarten are higher than the ones in our garden. I smiled. Go on and play. Remember to listen to Grandpa Butler. I ruffled her twin braids and watched as she hopped into the bulletproof car. The old butler was carefully fastening her custom cartoon seatbelt. As the motorcade pulled away, my daughter pressed her little hands into a heart shape against the car window. The smile on her face was exactly the same as Anna's when she learned her father's surgery had been a success. When I arrived at the office, Anna was sitting in my chair, organizing documents. She said, this is the file for the overseas acquisition you requested. She slid the folder across the desk. I opened it, but my gaze fell instead on the wedding ring on her left hand. 7 years ago, when she signed that contract, that finger had been bare. Now it wore a diamond ring worth millions, the inner band engraved with our wedding date, something she herself had asked for. After giving birth to our child, she had been free, as the contract stipulated. If she had chosen to leave, I would have given her 30 million and let her go, though I never would have given her custody of the child. But in the end, she chose to stay. I never asked why. Was it for the child, or for the wealth and status of being Mrs. Wang? Forget it. At this point, it no longer mattered. Anna was now my wife, just as I had once promised. As long as she kept me satisfied, I didn't mind giving her the title. I said, with your abilities, you could have gone far, seen the world, instead of staying by my side as a caged songbird. Do you regret it, being trapped in this golden cage I built for you? I asked her that directly. She said, of course I regret it. She let out a soft laugh, and when she turned back to me, her eyes were glimmering like starlight. I regret not meeting you earlier. Maybe I wouldn't have suffered so much. You keep calling this a cage, but to me, it's the first place where I've been able to sleep peacefully at night. Then she took my hands in hers. She said softly, I've always known, what you really want isn't an obedient songbird. It's someone who will quietly stand beside you and watch the world change. I sighed. I could say all this was written in the contract, but fine, as long as you're happy. Over the years, I had developed some feelings for her. After all, she was the mother of my daughter, and at least she didn't treat me like Willow or Sophia did, pretending to care while thinking of someone else. That alone was enough. True affection has never been a byproduct of a contract. It's what happens when two people who once walked alone through darkness finally choose to lower their guard and walk hand in hand toward the light. And I, at last, had found a glimmer of starlight of my own within this concrete jungle.